Now that's how you make a good Star Wars prequel. Title crawl, I don't need it because neither does Rogue One. Hey there guys, how are you? So let's talk about Star Wars Rogue One, my most anticipated movie of 2016, right behind this movie right here. And we know how that movie turned out, so hopefully this one was better. This is a prequel to Episode 4, and it follows the rebel character of Jyn Erso. And she, alongside some other rebels, go on this risky mission to steal the plans on how to destroy the Death Star. Now the first thing I want to talk about, and the thing that I find the biggest positive about Rogue One, is it accreditates the story of Episode 4. Because during Rogue One, there's a lot of things explained in this movie that we might not have known or didn't really have a backstory with in Episode 4, and now that we know these things, everything that happened in Episode 4 that you might have thought was a loose end or maybe a little bit well, now we have reasons and explanations behind these things, and for me as a Star Wars fan, it instantly made me want to go watch Episode 4 because I was like, oh my gosh, okay, now I understand this character's motivation. I understand the buildup behind this. Now I understand everything that it took just to get this far. This movie stars Felicity Jones as Jyn Erso, Diego Luna as Cassian Andor, and Alan Tudyk as the android K2SO. Now these three characters are essentially the main characters of Rogue One, and you follow them throughout the entire plot. Now let's talk about a little thing called character development, and I would say it's probably the weakest element of Star Wars Rogue One. Now as far as the character of Jyn Erso, I would say she was flushed out. The movie gave enough backstory. I understood what she was doing, her motivations, her character intentions, even if she was a little bland at times. But as far as her right-hand man throughout the movie, the character of Cassian, we don't really know much about him. We know when he was 6 years old, he was a rebel, and he's still a rebel, and well, that's all we know. One line of dialogue given as his backstory, and he's one of the main characters in the movie. And thinking about it, we actually find out more backstory on the droid character K2SO than we do Cassian. Now let's spend the next 20 seconds of this video talking about the character K2SO, who is a droid, and if you're familiar with any other Star Wars film, you know droids in these movies actually play a pivotal part. And K2SO is no exception to this role, because his main purpose in this movie was to add levity and comedic moments throughout. Now when it comes to movies, and you have that one character who's supposed to be goofy and offer comedic relief, well, sometimes that can go wrong very, very fast. But K2SO was an awesome character. He was very subtle, he had a very dry sense of humor, and he was one of those characters that said anything and everything that came to his mind. If there was something stupid happening, he stated the obvious, and I like that. I like when characters in films state the obvious, and not everyone in the situation plays stupid. And besides K2SO, everyone else in the movie, they were there, they were sufficient, they came and went and showed up. You didn't really know anything about them, and I couldn't latch on to them. It's not to say that some of them weren't entertaining along the way, but when something happened to them, I was like, eh. You have Forrest Whitaker's character who does some interesting, weird, kooky stuff throughout the film. He's half man, half robot, and you're just like, huh. What will you become? That's how he talks throughout the entire movie. But I will say one of the coolest characters in this movie is played by Donnie Yen, and he's a blind man who's force sensitive. And he doesn't take shit from anyone because he has one of the coolest action sequences in this movie where he takes down a whole bunch of stormtroopers. It's awesome. And to sum up my thoughts on the character development in this movie, it's almost like the writer behind this movie said, you know what? We know that they don't show up in episode 4, 5, or 6, so yeah, why does it matter? Just here. Yep, we're done. Now, with all that out of the way, let's talk about the fact that this is a prequel film. This is the prequel to Episode 4, and as far as the style and tone and the vibe goes, it felt perfect. Here's how I'm going to classify this movie. Think of Episode 7. Like it or hate it, Episode 7, in my opinion, felt more tonally consistent with Return of the Jedi. Now, as far as the tone and vibe of Rogue One goes, it felt something along the lines of Empire Strikes Back. Because in Rogue One, everyone's tired and pissed off. No one's happy-go-lucky. If you take the characters of Rogue One, even though they don't have a lot of backstory and there's not much depth to them, compare these characters to the characters of something along the lines of Episode 7, where you have Rey and Finn, and they're both happy-go-lucky and upbeat and making jokes. Yeah, in Rogue One, not a lot of people do that. They're tired, they're pissed off, they want to blow up the Death Star, and they just want to move on with their lives. I digress, but the point I'm trying to make is I prefer the tone of Rogue One because it feels dark and serious and things are at stake compared to like happy-go-lucky versions of Star Wars movies. Now let's talk about the galaxy's biggest badass, and as I talk about him, I need to hold him. Come here, Darth Vader. There you are. Now, is it fair to say that having Darth Vader in Rogue One was ultimate fan service? Yeah, but then again, making a prequel to Episode 4, I would call that fan service too. Now, as far as Darth Vader goes in Rogue One, was he a big part of this movie? No, not really. He has about 6 minutes of screen time, but every second that Darth Vader's on screen, I loved it. Now, is it fair to say that I wanted more screen time from Darth Vader in this movie? Yes, because everything that he was in, every scene that he had, especially one towards the end of the movie, which is complete fan service nerdgasm, your head will explode, your lightsabers will get hard, and you will feel the Force. I would say this is that one Darth Vader scene where you really get what you want from Darth Vader. And when I was watching it, I was like, please, just give me 20 more minutes of that. I don't care about Jyn Erso. I just want to watch Darth Vader do things. And when I say watch Darth Vader do things, I really mean it. Like, if they just wanted to show Darth Vader walking around the Death Star, hanging out, drinking coffee, or going to the Death Star vending machine to buy Tic Tacs, please include that into a scene. I would love to watch it. But as far as Darth Vader's overall impact on the movie, did he really have a military standpoint on the outcome? Not really. He was more of a glorified enforcer throughout the movie. And speaking of bad guys, the main villain of this film is Krennic. And as far as the villain goes, he was a sufficient villain. He was played by Ben Mendelsohn, who also played another bad guy in the movie The Dark Knight Rises. But yeah, he was okay, but you won't remember him soon as the movie's over. Now, here are my final flicking thoughts on Rogue One. Like I said before, as far as the tone and vibe of this movie goes, it felt like episode 4. It felt unpolished, it felt gritty, and I really enjoyed that. And the other thing I really appreciated about Rogue One was it took actual film clips from episode 4 and implemented them into Rogue One. And I think that's really cool. And as far as the rest of the visuals and CG goes, I would say it's about 99% perfect for the most part. And here's just one random little detail I really liked about the movie, but as far as the Star Destroyers go, you see these close-up shots of them up in space, and you can't decipher if this is a model or completely CG. Because if you go back and watch the original Star Wars movies where they use miniatures and models, it almost looked like they CG'd them in such a way to look like that, and that was really cool. I like when you can't really tell the difference. To sum it up, nothing in this movie felt over bloated. They didn't just put stuff here and here and here to say, look, stuff. But a few quick negatives before I give you my grade on this movie is, the first half of this movie felt choppy and disjointed because they go from planet to planet, location to location, to do stuff that leads to other stuff. And speaking of choppy and disconjointed, there's a few scenes in this movie, very small scenes, where you just go, what was that? That thing had tentacles. What was it doing? Does anyone want to explain this? No? Okay. And my one last nitpicky complaint is the score to the movie. It has the classic Star Wars score going on in the background, but there's some new music composed for the film, and it doesn't really stand out that much. I wanted something that was epic and uplifting and made you remember it. Something along the lines of Duel of the Fates. This movie needed something like that in one of the big iconic scenes to make you just love it and remember it forever. I'm going to give Rogue One, are you guys ready for it? I'm going to give the movie an A- because as far as the prequel goes, with the source material that they had to work with leading into episode 4, I really felt like they did everything they possibly could to elevate the material and the movie of episode 4. Here's what I'm saying. If you've seen Rogue One, it makes episode 4 that much better of a movie. And as a Star Wars fan, I think that's pretty impressive. It made a pre-existing movie much more meaningful and better because now we know more backstory on the events that happened in that movie. That's my take on Rogue One. Now here's my question to you guys, and let me know down below in the comments, what'd you guys think about Rogue One? Did you like it? Did you hate it? And before I go, if you haven't already, make sure you click this button right here to subscribe to my channel. And if you've already subscribed to my channel, well, you might want to double check that you still are, because YouTube is, well, it's not quite working the way it used to. It's broken. I've had tons of subscribers tell me that they're no longer subscribed to me, and YouTube did it automatically. So yeah, if you could, make sure you're still subscribed by clicking the button right there. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Leave your thoughts, your opinions down below, and I'll see you next time.